Are you a patient suffering with a disease or condition? Do you feel lost within our healthcare system? Are there times when you feel like you don't have a voice with your doctor or pharmacist? Welcome to a podcast dedicated to the patient, hosted by a patient suffering with chronic pain, who's a vibrant entrepreneur, Christy Sobel. The Patients Podcast focuses on interviewing doctors, pharmacists, healthcare providers, and other patients to build a network of change, to create an environment of sincere empathy, to elevate the patient's voice, and demand advocacy for those suffering. Welcome to the Patients Podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network.
You're listening to the Patients Podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. I'm Christy Sobel. Today's guest, Tanya Valle, is a Certified Mindfulness Meditation Teacher. She develops, implements mindfulness programs for organizations, communities, and individuals. Tanya is a former New York City television reporter, press secretary under former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, and Fortune 50 corporate, public relations, and executive. Tanya, welcome to the show. You know, in the search for an answer, is there really a cure for chronic pain? Is there any help? And through this process, I'm trying to figure out what we can do for chronic pain. Not only for myself, but all of the listeners out there that are trying everything under the sun, and what are the various options that will give you maybe some insight into this and help you with focusing more on something higher than what the pain is bringing to you. Please welcome our guest today, Tanya. She is one of the neatest ladies I've met, and she's going to discuss with us about mindfulness today. Welcome, Tanya.
Thank you, Christy, and thank you so much for that warm and wonderful opening. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to it. What is mindfulness?
Yes, so in a nutshell, mindfulness is just being in the present moment without judgment. So in other words, being fully present without labeling what's happening at the moment as good or bad, really just seeking to accept it as it is.
Okay. And with that being said, why is there so much hype right around now mindfulness?
Yeah, I mean, mindfulness is getting a lot of news coverage. It's getting a lot of write-ups. And it's really because there's a lot of science and research that is backing up the benefits of mindfulness. Research has shown that mindfulness, a practice of mindfulness, can help to reduce pain, to reduce anxiety, to reduce blood pressure, and overall just to increase our emotional, mental, and physical well-being.
So this is good for people, I guess, that are in chronic pain, and it's kind of going into meditation. Is that kind of what it is? And just kind of breathing through this? Take me through that process.
Yes, exactly. So mindfulness is, you could say almost two things. Mindfulness, there's mindfulness meditation. So that is a practice of taking time out of your day, as little or as much time as you can. So from a couple of minutes to 20 minutes or a half hour to really practice being in the present moment. And the basic way of practicing of being in the present moment is really to focus on your breath. So you're going to pay attention to where you feel your breath most naturally. It might be, for example, the rising and falling of your belly, or the rising and falling of your chest, or the air flowing in and out through your nostrils. So that's the most basic form of mindfulness. And then there are other ways to bring mindfulness into your everyday life, and that's literally just by taking a pause and noticing where you are. So a lot of times, we're lost in thought. We're thinking about the things we have to do and what's next. And so the mind is often in this loop of either being in the past or being in the future. So by just taking a moment out of our day to say, to take a deep breath, for example, that's a moment of mindfulness.
Okay. So that's really, what's the difference between meditation and mindfulness?
Yeah, so mindfulness is just being mindful, so being aware of the present moment. And then there's mindfulness meditation, which is purposely sitting or laying down and purposely focusing on your breath for, an amount of time. And that amount of time is up to you. It could be, as I said, 5 minutes or 20 minutes. So there's the idea of just being mindful in your day and just taking time out to notice where you are, notice where you're feeling, what you're feeling. And then there's meditation, which is taking more time to either focus on your breath or really to create a daily meditation practice.
So you're helping people become knowledgeable on how they're feeling so that it'll help with the physical and other means of getting stressed out. The way that you feel the chronic pain, how to process these mental things that are going on. Am I correct?
Yes. So how mindfulness helps is often our emotions are fed by our thoughts, and sometimes our thoughts feed our emotions. So the aim of mindfulness is really to just be with what's happening without creating a story around it, without saying what's happening now is bad or what's happening now is good. So in the example of physical pain, so, some pain is really, really intense, but to the extent that someone is comfortable to really just maybe take a few minutes to see if they can just be aware of that pain and see if they can be aware of it without creating a story around it. Again, just without kind of just saying, this is really bad. Why is this happening to me? But really just aiming to be with it as much as a person is able to. And again, that completely is individual and that totally depends on the pain.
Okay, so just so everybody knows, because I've dealt with the mind-blowing pain just before you go and need back surgery. This is not saying that your pain is in your head or it's going to fix you or going to be a cure-all for everybody, for everything. This is just a refocus and try to focus your mind into another zone so that you feel something more than that horrific pain. And if I'm correct, it's about 8 sessions. Is that really what it takes kind of therapy to kind of get into that zone and know what you're doing?
Yeah, different studies have shown different things. For example, one study showed that if a person did 30 minutes every day of mindfulness meditation called loving kindness, that they would see a change in their brain in 2 weeks by doing 30 minutes a day. Of course, the changes do need to be maintained with a regular practice. Other studies showed by doing mindfulness meditation for as little as 10 minutes a day, up to 20 over 7 or 8 weeks, that will create a physiological and neurological change. So there's a lot of research out there, but the point is to reap the benefits, it does require a daily practice, and a little is better than nothing at all. So it's about what's manageable for people. For some people, it may be by starting out with 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes a few times a week, but it's through the practice that we start to reap the benefits.
And this is just learning how to change negative thought patterns and behavior is really what it's doing, correct?
Well, it's not about changing us or the way that we're thinking. It's more about accepting what we're thinking and really trying not to judge what we're thinking. Trying not to judge what we're thinking and trying not to judge ourselves. And of course, that takes practice, as anything does. But it's not about changing us. It's really about aiming to be more accepting of what's happening.
Okay. Do you find that most of the people that practice mindfulness, are they seeing other doctors dealing with pain? Are they, how much is the pain reduced by going through this process? What can people, feel in 8 sessions, let's just say?
Right. Well, I'll speak from my own personal experience. Last year was a big year of transition for me, and I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. And maybe due to the anxiety, I was also experiencing chronic headaches, chronic neck pain, chronic back pain. And it might have been the pain fueling the anxiety or the anxiety fueling the pain. So what I did was I started, and this was all part of my mindfulness meditation certification, but I did an 8-week daily practice of mindfulness around really trying to be with my anxiety and using it to manage some of the thoughts that were fueling my anxiety. So for me, by really taking a few minutes every single day to focus on my breath and to really try to not judge my thoughts and judge myself, and really just trying to be in the present moment by focusing on my breath, I noticed my anxiety was loosened. And as a result of my anxiety being loosened, because it was tied to my pain, I also noticed that my reaction towards the pain I was having was less as well.
And I have to say that you have to keep your mind open for everything. It really starts with, if you're going into it negative and you say after the first session, it's not working, this is BS. But you go to the third, your fourth, it doesn't matter how many sessions if you don't keep an open mind. And that's the biggest thing about trying various things that may work for somebody else, might not work for you, but how do you know is to be open to the idea of what it is all about and giving it a chance, because the alternatives are much, much more in depth. And if you can get rid of some of the negative thoughts and put that into positive when you're in that stage of, oh my God, I can't take any more pain, is a really good thing to learn how to bring yourself back down.
Yes. And to add to that, our thoughts tend to snowball. So if we're able to even catch ourselves at that thought, right, which is like, oh my gosh, I'm in so much pain. The pain is there. There's no denying it. And there's nothing that's going to be a magic bullet or a magic pill that's going to all of a sudden take the pain away. But if in that moment, if we can take just a couple of breaths that really will help break that loop of thinking, which doesn't mean the pain is going to go away, but it will or may impact your reaction to the pain.
Mindfulness has been around for a while now, the practice of it, and you have pretty strong percentage of people that once they go through it, it really does help them deal with day-to-day, getting through it and slowly making changes in their lives. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And, again, I can speak from my own personal experience, which is that I have a daily meditation practice. I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes. And I've been a daily meditator now for about maybe 3 to 4 years. And before that, I kind of dabbled here and there, tried a couple of meditation classes, maybe once a week or so. And in my own life, which is the reason why I teach it, is that I have reaped so many benefits from it. It's just made me a more alert, focused person. I'm better able to concentrate, and I'm also better able to deal with my emotions, which is one of the big goals of mindfulness. One of the reasons to do it is that being able to better be with how we're feeling, and how we're feeling could be physical pain, emotional pain, and just really seeking to, instead of pushing it away, which is our normal tendency, but really trying to see if we can be with it so that our reaction to it is less emotional, and hopefully also through practice, really realizing, hey, we're stronger than we thought we were. We have these inner resources that can help us handle the things that come our way.
I think the biggest thing that I have read about mindfulness, and it goes hand in hand from what I've experienced that if your mind is not strong, your body won't follow along. So you have to be strong mentally. I'm learning if your mind is strong, your body will follow along. And that's what I think that in this process of dealing with chronic pain, I have tried so many things. And you get to a point and you just wonder, I must be going crazy because certain things are not working for me. And when you get to a point to where you're just bouncing off the walls and you even have tried to take, narcotics and things just are not gelling, I think for me is when I took a step back and said, after surgery and getting through a lot of, severe pain and readjusting to my new life, I really had to hone in. And the amazing thing about it is some of the various treatments, things that I went through, and mindfulness was one of them. I didn't think I got anything out of it until I was put in that moment to where I could apply it. And I think that's why I want people to keep their minds open and to hear these things, because even at your worst, you can find your best in coping. And I think that's kind of what I want people to know about this. Would you say that you are stronger, or your patients are stronger? What is the big feedback that you get from people from doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And, that is kind of one of the foundations of mindfulness, that through a greater acceptance of what we're going through, that it does make us stronger, because we're able to find the resources within ourselves that maybe we thought we didn't have. And in my personal experience, as a result of addressing the root of my anxiety, I really don't experience much anxiety anymore. And if it does pop up, I do use mindfulness of breath to kind of manage that and break the loop of the thoughts that might be fueling it. And in terms of the clients that I work with, one guy that I work with who gave me a great testimonial on my website, it helped boost his own personal resourcefulness. He was looking to work in a different industry and really reap from some benefits from investing in the real estate industry. And he found that by getting still, he was able to create greater trust within himself, and also to tap into kind of an inner wisdom that really helped him move forward in life.
And that's a good thing. I mean, that's a very good thing. I think, like everybody, I'm trying to really approach this with the patient side of it and knowing the chronic pain and how overwhelming it becomes. So that's why I'm truly kind of breaking this down for those people to understand, because it's hard to believe something like this can actually help chronic pain. I know most of the people that are listening to this, some would say, oh, please, that doesn't work. And I guess my testimonial to this is, I wouldn't believe it if I didn't follow it in some of my darker days. So there is always something out of everything you do that you can draw upon when you need it the most. And I think that's kind of keeping an open mind, trying everything you can, not giving up on hope, because you need hope to get your body squared away. The chronic pain brings on much anxiety, fear of the unknown, entanglement of what success is and what failure is, and what you can or can't do, what you've done in the past you can't do in the present. That is why we are in that process. How can someone start having a mindful practice?
Yes, and it's not difficult to start bringing mindfulness into our everyday life. In fact, I have some tips on my website, TanyaValle.com. I have an article on my blog page that is called 5 Ways to Live in the Moment. And these are just tips on taking moments out of your day to notice where you are, to really focus on what's around you, and perhaps even to check in with how you're feeling. So those are some easy tips.
So basically, how can someone be mindful?
Yes, how someone can be mindful throughout or during times in their everyday life. So, we're not going to be mindful 100% of the time, but really by seeking to be present in the moment is how we begin to accept our feelings and where we're at, and also hopefully not judge the moment.
I like this. I really appreciate you coming on the Patience Podcast, Tanya. And what is your website again?
Sure. It's my first and last name. So it's TanyaValle.com, and it's TANYA, V as in Victor, ALLE.com.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your facet with our listeners.
Thank you for having me, Christy. It was a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Patience Podcast, part of the Pharmacy Podcast Network. Please send your ideas, thoughts, comments, or stories to christysobelhope@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to the Patience Podcast, where the voice of the patient is the most important voice in healthcare. If you'd like to be featured on the Patience Podcast, please send us your information and story to patiencepodcast@gmail.com.